video how to swap out your countertop. I didn't bother showing the takeout process. There are lots of videos on how you undo the supply lines that go to your old vanity top. In this case, it was one of those fake marble tops that has seen its better days. Whole kit and caboodle got taken out with the P-trap disconnected, the two supply lines disconnected, a little bowl in there to catch the excess water. And that's as easy as it gets. It had a little backsplash attached to it, so I had to take off the mirror first. The easiest way is to get some wood shims. If you have enough room, you can go in the side. I usually do 2 or 3 on the top. Start tapping them down with a rubber mallet, tap them down, tap them down. Eventually, this glue that they put on there, the tar glue, will disadhere from the wall. It will rip off some of the paper and you're good. And then you just take the mirror off, and that's what I did. Then you take the vanity backsplash that was kind of attached to the fake marble. Take that off the best you can. Kind of boogered this up, but it doesn't matter. They're going to be painting in here eventually anyway. So going forward, the process is relatively easy. So you're going to get some plywood. In this case, I think I have, what is this, 3/8? I think it's 3/8 plywood. You don't have a need to really get a thick 5/8 or 3/4 ply. It's really not necessary, but you don't want a little 1/4 inch ply either. So you get your plywood, cut it to size. In this case, it was already pre-cut to size. So now understand, most of these vanities are just pressed wood. They're just particle board, basically, with a veneer on them to make them look kind of nice. So you're not really going to get a screw in there because you're going to end up, kind of pushing this out, and unless you do a pilot hole. So the screws are for later. I happen to have some finish nails, which are excellent for what I'm doing. But in the meantime, you're going to get some liquid nails, and you're just going to apply some liquid nails all the way around the perimeter. Very simple process. But you know, this is way more than enough for the purposes of holding this down permanently. So now that you have that in there, as I said, get the front flush as much as possible. The side sticks out just a little tad. I'll either get my Dremel or I get my planer. Then the next process is just putting some nails all around the perimeter. And it's hard to go wrong because you're flush up with the perimeter already, so you're not going to be hitting nothing if you just go about 1/4 inch or so in, and then just go all the way around. I'm going to do that off camera. So I'll probably just squirt some liquid nail up on top of here, and then I will definitely screw this down. I got 1.5 inch thin screws for that purposes, as opposed to coarse drywall screws, and I will screw that down. This is 1/2 inch board, so I'm going to get a good part of 1/2 inch going into the wood, and I'm going to do a whole bunch of them around the perimeter and a couple of rows. And the tile is going to be like this fake cement tile that is patterned. So there's only going to be like 3 rows, in fact 2.5 of those rows, and more than likely I'll do the half part in the back, and then part of that will also be the backsplash going around. And then I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I'm going to put a Schluter trim on the face of it. I believe I am. I think so. It's either going to be Schluter. No, I know what it is. It's a small thin piece of tile on here with a Schluter, I believe. Anyway, stay tuned. You'll find out. If you needed explanation and show and tell on how to do it, that's what you're looking for. So now you can go forward, as I said before, screwing that in. I'll put an abundance of nails, or sorry, screws in here, but honestly, this liquid nails is going to do the job that it's supposed to do by tomorrow, so it's not really going anywhere. If you're going to be doing any type of sink in here, which I'm assuming you are, don't put a bunch of screws around there, although you can back them up later. But yeah, do a couple of rows like this, back off of where your sink is going to be, even put a template there if you have to make sure. And you know, there's no harm, no foul if you do, because you can always come back later. I'm going to actually go in at the perimeter area because I know that my screw is not going to blow out the cabinet because I have enough girth of my material. So the next step I'm going to do tomorrow, because I don't have time to do it today, is I'm going to red guard this. Does it really need to be red guard with tile on it? Well, it is a sink. And you don't want to have issues with water getting through your grout, and then you have a bunch of discolored grout later on, and or mold and mildew. So, rather use it and not need it than need it and not use it. So it will be red guarded tomorrow. And that's at a point I'll come back, because I don't think this is very entertaining. So I'm in the next process. Red guard, a couple coats have got put on here a few days ago. I'm in with the painter, so it's a little messy in here. So the idea, I have a vessel sink, top mounted sink, and then I have a single faucet handle, single handle faucet. Got a back ass word. So what I did is I marked out about center of the vanity, and I marked my hole exactly where that hole is at prior to me installing the downspout. The downspouts still not on, but then I also have this hole to cut out too. That's a piece of cake. That's a piece of cake. This gets a little more complicated. So everything is dry fit. I know I said this before on other videos that I have. Dry fit, dry fit, dry fit. I don't care if it's a shower floor, in this case a vanity. Dry fit everything, because getting into it hot and heavy with all your thin set and all that stuff already mixed up, and then you're ready to tile and you run into a bunch of problems because you didn't dry fit, you won't have a fun day. So there's a little discrepancy off to the side here and in the back, because I made the fatal error of not accounting for my profile, and so a tile piece is going to go in there eventually, and there has to be enough for the tile and the thin set. So I had it perfectly see, this is why you dry fit. I had it perfectly laid out and everything, and then yeah, forgot that part. And so yeah, my profile is all set on both sides. There's going to be a little piece back here as well, and the hole is cut out prior to the tile. A lot easier to do it this way. Although the other hole, the 1¼ inch, I've got a hole cutter that I've marked, and eventually I will cut that through too. And that's it. And then it's just a matter of trialing out your thin set onto the same as any other tile job. Trialing out your thin set, back buttering your tile, setting them down there, and waiting 24 hours. All right, I didn't cheat you out of any information. The sink is not anchored in. It's just a dry fit. The faucet is not anchored in. It's just a dry fit. The only thing I've done is grouted and put on this front edge. So let me pull this out and put this out to the side. Along with that washer goes down at the bottom. As I said, you have that rubber washer. You're gonna have an O-ring right here that sits on top of it, and the rubber washer, the clamp, go along with the locking device that screws on that on the bottom. It's pretty easy. And then you just add the supply lines in there. The sink fits in there like a glove because I did my cuts correctly prior to, right? Hold on a second. Anyway, so yeah, cut doesn't have to be perfect, as mine isn't. There's a flange at the bottom, a recess if you will, that is going to get some caulking in there to keep it watertight. That there's a hole cutter, yeah, that I did with that, and I already pre-marked it. I already knew where my middle line was so that I could cut it perfectly exactly where I wanted it later on. I did grout it, as I mentioned on the last video. I was a little bit shy on those back end, but it doesn't matter. There's going to be tile above there. Half of this, which is 4 inches, going above there is a backsplash, so it doesn't matter. The front pieces all match up with the top pieces, and yeah, the profile is already in. So I wanted to show you a little trick. I've done it. I do it maybe once or twice in a year when I need to. When you have any type of bump out or something that you can't overcome, then you could shave off with your wet saw. You can't do this with any other type of device, but you can shave off, right? So I've got a little bump out, obviously showing right there, and I can't overcome that. So rather than make a cut around it, make it look kind of stupid, you do that little recess cut, and then it fits in there like a glove. Perfect. Like I said, I reserve that on very, very few occasions, but at the end of the day, tile is a wall covering. So as long as you're seeing that, that's all that really matters. Could you do that in other applications? Absolutely. Anyway, you see how I have this shimmed up here to let these tiles dry. And in the meantime, I have this piece cut at 20 inches, which bypasses this little bump out. And then I have those pieces cut to set under them. That will hold all of those tile up until they have a chance to dry. So pretty easy process, relatively. It is a definite DIY project. So I'm in the last and final phase of doing this countertop, this vanity countertop in here. I grouted yesterday. Turned out very nice and flat and even. I like the end result. I don't know if I'm crazy about this faux cement tile. It's supposed to replicate cement tile. And I just happened to get a paint stick and some of these pieces of cardboard, and I just put that along the top of here. So it did its job for what it was supposed to do. And then I propped this up on this end because I didn't want to screw into the vanity in order to hold those tile up. And so, yeah, that did that job, which is fantastic. The homeowner I consulted with and suggested doing, rather than painting the top of this, which was her suggestion, I said, no, let's just put this Schluter strip up all the way around. And she liked it on the front, but for whatever reason, unbeknownst to me, she didn't want it on the side. So I just had to kind of abruptly end it that way. Not really sure why. But then again, I'm just told what to do, not necessarily how to do it. I give out suggestions, even suggesting not using this. Just not my cup of tea, just personally. So if I'm giving my subjective opinion and then they discount it, then there's nothing I can do. So that's basically the process. I tried the best I could to kind of, I don't know, catalog some of the process, and it's really not that hard. It's probably a weekend job for a DIYer. The first part of putting the plywood in here, nailing and gluing that down, the Durarock on top of that, and then red guarding on top of that before you tile. That's really, and then of course making sure everything is centered. But that's really all you have to worry about. I think the plumbing thing throws a lot of people off more than the tile. And the plumbing thing I can't help you with because I don't have a way to access. But I think I started from the very beginning of the video talking about this particular faucet, how it's just lovely that they have the supply lines that match up to this 3/8 supply. But I believe that my 3/8 current supply will match up, so I don't need those extensions at all. And then it's just a matter of dropping it in the hole and tightening it up from the bottom, and there you go. So pretty easy peasy. Speaking of the hole, so you know, I cut these tile individually. I think this is an 1.25 inch, if I'm not mistaken, 1.25 inch, 1.5 inch diamond hole bit specifically, that I cut that out with and measured it ahead of time. And then of course I measured out a little larger for this, for the sink specifically, because if you ever have a need to get to the bottom to tighten up one of these flanges or something like that, you're going to need a little bit of, there's what's called a basin wrench, that if you needed to tighten this up or loosen it up to change out this downspout at some point, tailpiece if you will, that you could use that basin wrench to do so. But you're not going to do it if you try and cut this hole just the size. So the end result is make this hole a little larger than what you're going to need. You will thank yourself in the future if you ever decide to change out the sink or do something different. Let's see if I can get this set down the side there. So there it goes. And the anchor anchoring on these are generally going to be a bead of caulking that you're going to run up under the sink portion and then just set it down right onto the caulking itself. And then of course the anchoring that you have with the P-trap underneath is all one of these really need. But that's the end result. That's why I go into excess explanation on certain projects that I do, so that anybody watching, you know, can understand, and that I'm not getting 1,000 questions. Well, how do you do this and how do you do that? So I'm going to grout all of this stuff I said yesterday, and this is the end of this video. Hope it helped. If it helped, please donate to my son. He has a GoFundMe. He got blinded in his eye this past spring, and he has cheekbone repair, some teeth repair, and he's got a lot of expenses and he can't work. And so I'll link that video if you have any questions about him. But the GoFundMe for him is down below in the description, and as well as a pinned comment. And so I would appreciate a few dollars thrown his way for the information I provided here. And that's it. That's all I have to say about this. Hey, if you enjoyed that video and you learned something, consider being a Patreon member. $5, $10, $15 a month would help me greatly produce more videos. I make nothing from YouTube at all. If you're gonna call me for advice, please donate $50 for 30 minutes. My link to my PayPal and my Patreon account is down below. And if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button and hit the bell so you get immediate notifications as soon as I post videos. And thank you very much for your support.